Pruning landscape shrubs is one of the things that really confuses a lot of people. And there's a good reason for that, because we have so many different types of shrubs and they bloom at different times of the year, and you actually manage them in different ways if you want to maximize that bloom. We're going to take a look at one of the categories of shrubs that people really like for shade or part shade conditions typically, and talk a little bit about how to prune each of those 4 different types. One of the most wildly popular hydrangeas on the market today is the big leaf hydrangeas, particularly the ones that bloom on both current year's wood and previous year's wood. There's a good reason for that, because the species itself is actually not considered reliably hardy here, and the flowers used to appear only on previous year's wood, which meant people would prune it back in the spring because there was no live top, and since it would only bloom on that previous year's wood, they would never get any flowering. So what the breeders have done with hydrangeas such as Endless Summer is come up with a shrub that actually will bloom on both previous season's wood and current season's wood. So what we're looking at here is the previous wood, and there's been a little bit of pruning done on that, and then we're looking at current wood. So the idea here is you only prune back the dead tops in the spring and then see what happens for development of the buds. The second type of hydrangea, which is actually suffrutescent, is one called Annabelle hydrangea or smooth hydrangea. And suffrutescent means that the root system is actually hardy, but the top is not. That is a hydrangea that you actually cut all the way back to the ground to live growth so that you can encourage the production of new flowering on new wood. Some people cut it only back to 6 inches to 18 inches perhaps to be able to keep those flowers a little bit smaller and keep them from flopping over in the rain. But again, that is one that you actually cannot remove the flower buds by cutting it back essentially all the way in the spring. A third type of hydrangea, which is 100% woody, is oak leaf hydrangea. There are dwarf forms and large forms, and they actually take very little pruning. You can see that because of the season this year, these have actually already begun to develop their flower buds. We have a little bit of a dead twig from last season, but there are flowers starting on this one as well. Realistically, if a person wanted to reshape this shrub, you could take this top out, even though you would lose the flowering here. But one of the things you want to make sure you don't do on these hydrangeas is either do too much pruning or do the pruning in such a way that you actually remove the flower buds. So ideally, this one gets pruned, again, after flowering and just lightly. The final type of hydrangea we're going to look at is Panicle Hydrangea, which is actually also a woody shrub. Unlike oak leaf hydrangea, however, this one blooms late in the season, and you can actually see the spent flower head from last year and the new wood that it has developed on either side of it. So this is a new branch from this season. This is where the flower bud will actually develop later on. And if a person wanted to, you really have 2 choices here. The first is to go ahead and snap off those spent flower heads. That's simply cleaning up the plant. The second would be if any pruning or reduction of size is required, the time to do that would be fairly quickly here so that that plant can set those new flower buds.